wedi cyrraedd. Croeso I chi, David. Welcome here, David. Da dy weld ti. Bore da. Dyna ni, mae'r llais wedi dod o ddysach. Gwych, diolch yn fawr. So, therefore, we can start now.
Got more. Thank you.
Ewn ni trwy'r ymddeiriadau. Apologies gyntaf. Paul Pennington has sent us a video also, members of a lady who has worked in MEIFOD and enjoys working in MEIFOD wood products. You've all seen it. We've also had Geraint Lloyd-Williams, apologies, Andrew Thomas, Hugh Irving. I think I got them all there. Peter Prendergast has also apologized, but he sends a statement to be read out, and I'm going to read it. I have given my apologies to the chair as due to a private appointment. I cannot attend this meeting. However, could you please pass on my comment to the chair and ask you to read it out in my absence? Item 5, MEIFOD Enterprise. I myself chair a community-based group helping residents from all walks of life to learn skills through an apprentice scheme, not only to upskill people, but give them confidence in their own abilities and maybe the possibility of work. MEIFOD is so important to the people attending, offering similar opportunities to the group I chair. I urge all councillors to support the continuation of this very worthy scheme and for the residents who use this training facility to continue to have every opportunity to progress in life and maybe obtain work. I also feel that exploring opportunities through both DCC and Betsy CADEIRYDD for future work job skills would confirm the tremendous work MEIFOD carries out in enabling people to progress in life and benefit both organisations in employing dedicated and trained staff. There's a definite need for groups such as MEIFOD in giving people any chance of gaining skills, that is so important, everyone from all walks of life nowadays, to gain some form of employment and improve their own lives and those of their families. Thanks, Pete. So I read that out because he asked me. And now we go on to all apologies. Have I put out apologies in? I think I have. Then any urgent matters as agreed by the chair. Dim byd gynna I, nothing there. We now go through the minutes. COFNODION y Pwyllgor DIWETHAF. Ysgolwch yn dda. Gael nhw'n gywir I ddechrau. Tudalen 5. Dwi'n meddwl bod yna rhywun camgymeriad y fanna. Tudalen 6. Rhywun camgymeriad y fanna. Da ni diolch I Cath, yr un sydd wedi cymryd, Cath Jones sydd wedi cymryd y COFNODION. A mae hi yma heddiw hefyd o dre. Tudalen 7. Gael nhw'n gywir. Tudalen 8. Tudalen 9. Tudalen 10. A tudalen 11. A wnaeth rhywun gynnig I bod nhw'n gywir, ysgolwch yn dda.
Propose them. Seconded, Peter.
Thank you, diolch yn fawr. Felly Bob wedi cynnig bod nhw'n gywir a Peter wedi eilio. Diolch yn fawr. Now we go through them to see if anything is arising or rhywbeth yn codi o'r COFNODION. Right, tudalen 5 I ddechrau. Oes na rhywbeth na, dwi'n meddwl. Tudalen 6. Dim byd y fanna. Tudalen 7. Ga I godi un peth? Officers agreed to provide further details on that topic to Councillor Paul Pennington outside of the meeting. Ydy hwnna wedi digwydd?
Ydy mae'r wybodaeth hefyd ar gael I chi yn yr diweddariad wybodaeth sydd wedi anfon atoch chi diwedd wythnos dwytha.
Diolch. Wedyn lawr ar y waelod, Councillor Ellie Chard referred to the Flying Start programme and said that parents be invited to schools to spend time with their children to help them learn through pay and further develop language, literary and social skills. Mae hwnna'n gynnig arferchog. Dwi'n siŵr bod hynna wedi cael ei basio ymlaen i'r adrannau. Diolch yn fawr. Wedyn tudalen 8, Martin Holland, suggestion to include within the report a glossary index of the terms used for various projects, tools, etc. Gobeithio bod yr awgrym yma wedi mynd drwadd I wahanol adrannau sydd yn cyflwyno adroddiadau hynny. Diolch. Tudalen 9, Bwthyn y ddôl. Be ydy'r sefyllfa efo bwthyn y ddôl dyddi yma?
Wrach Madrid, Nicola.
Nicola, are you willing to give us a report on bwthyn y ddôl, please?
So the situation at the moment is that we are currently looking to retender for the construction company, as the previous construction company that the tender had been awarded to has unfortunately gone out of business. So that process has had to start again. I think there was some consideration as to whether or not we could go back to the first tender process to other construction companies that had put forward. But because of the changing economics of the world at the moment, in terms of changes to costs of equipment, of products and so on, the legal advice given was to go back out to tender. So we've had conversations with Welsh Government, because this does push us outside of what would have been the funding time frame for this project. But very thankfully, Welsh Government are incredibly supportive of this project and have acknowledged that the product is likely to come in at a higher cost and will be in a different time frame. And they have indicated that they will support the development moving forward. But until that tender process is completed, we won't know the exact detail of that. But thankfully, Chair and Christine, who is on that board, may well want to contribute. Hopefully now we are back on track, but the delay was outside of all of our control. Diolch.
Diolch I chi. Christina, da chi eisiau
Yeah.
roi?
Well, just to add to support what Nicola's saying, yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic project, and hopefully it will get off the ground, but obviously it has had difficulties with the sort of contractor going into administration. So, but hopefully things positive. Looking to the future, it will sort of happen. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch I chi, Christina. Na I ddim sôn am rhan tudalen 9 am pobl o fewn ableddau ac am EIFOD Wood, achos ni'n trafod o nes ymlaen. Tudalen 10, na I ddim sôn llawer am cefndi, mae hwnna'n mynd I ddod yn y dyfodol yn dydi, cefndi rhian ydi.
Mae yna adroddiad gwybodaeth ar cefndi yn yr diweddariad gwybodaeth a fanwyd atoch chi wythnos dwytha. Na fo, diolch yn fawr iawn. Diolch yn fawr. Felly, oes na unrhyw gwestiwn arall gan aelodau o'r Pwyllgor Craffu yma I mi neu i'r swyddogion, cyn bod fi'n mynd â rhai tu allan? Na? Meirig, ydych chi eisiau gofyn cwestiwn?
Bore da, diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Ga I ddiolch hefyd i'r Cadeirydd am godi lle yn y cofnodion lle mae angen ymateb, ond does na neb wedi cofnodi hynny ar ochr y dudalen, fel oedd yr arfer I fod, os dwi'n cofio'n iawn, mi oedd y syniad oedd bod neu enw neu y swyddog oedd yn mynd I ateb yn y cofnodion, neu edrych I mewn i'r peth, bod ne bosib I ni holi. Ond diolch i'r Cadeirydd am fod mor llygad dyst i'r peth ac wedi codi nhw I hun. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch I chi. Oes rhywun eisiau ymateb I Meirig oedd I fewn i'r cyngor? Na. Diolch I ti am godi y nodi yna. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Reit. Ni'n mynd ymlaen nawr I eitem 5. Yr adroddiad yma ynghylch MEIFOD Woods. Lle pwysig iawn I amryw o deuluoedd ers nifer o flynyddoedd. Ac nid ydy Phil Gilroy yn gallu dod atan ni heddiw oherwydd problemau personol iawn. Ac da ni'n meddwl amdano fo a gobeithio bydd o gallu dod dros y problemau sydd ger I frono. Hefyd, da ni'n ddiolchgar I Katie Newy. Dydy hi ddim yn gallu dod yma oherwydd da ni wedi newid dyddiad. pwyllgor yma. Mae hi yn iawn wedi gallu mynd ar wyliau bach i
Being able to go away.
Werddon. Mae drwy gen i? Rhywun yn ymuno hynna, ie? Iawn, diolch yn fawr. O Janet Chamberlain, croeso i chi. Ac dda gen i weld bod Jenny Andrews yma hefyd. A bod Christine Marston yma, cynghorydd Christine Marston a cynghorydd Bobby Feely. Na i ddechrau efo Bobby Feely ac falle na i ofyn i Christine wedyn i ddweud gair am yr sefyllfa ar ôl tasg ag orchwil. Ga i ofyn i chi, Bobby, ddweud gair i ddechrau, sgwlwch yn dda?
Well, normally I would do that, Arwel, but in this event, it's not my report. It's the report of the Task and Finish group, which was set up by Performance Scrutiny. So I think probably it's for Christine to start off. In this case, I'm here observing and listening and taking on board everything that's said. And maybe I might like to say something towards the end. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Diolch yn fawr i chi. Drosodd atoch chi rwan, Christina Marston, cynghorydd. Diolch yn fawr i chi. Pob lwc.
Thank you, Chair. The task and it's a local authority provided adult social care services task and finish group, but we did sort of feel that in our meeting held on the 27th of September that potentially perhaps we should be referred to as a working group because our task and finish doesn't seem to be finishing. Yes, we brought this report with regards to the future of MEIFOD wood products. We did have a good discussion about the options that the officers had put in front of us in their report, which I'm sure you've all seen in the appendices. It was felt by our group that we definitely wanted to recommend that we keep this facility open and for it to reopen as soon as possible. But obviously we appreciated that we had to sort of maintain the sort of clients in a safe environment, and clearly reviews had to be made upon the machinery being used. I know officers have raised concerns about the safety of some of the machineries that are actually did want to explore the working social enterprise.
You're breaking up, please. I can't hear you.
Apologies, I'll turn my camera off. We did feel that officers should explore working with social enterprise and or the private sector to deliver this service. What we definitely wanted was this service to continue and for it not wanting to close. But obviously we appreciate there are challenges financially, and if we could explore and be a bit more creative in how the service is funded, then that should definitely be sort of exhausted and sort of reviewed. But no, we do feel that the MEIFOD wood products does provide a good service, that it's vital for the people who actually use it and engage with it. And MEIFOD and the products they produce are good products and are known locally and are bought locally and are appreciated. And I feel it would be very sad for that to be lost. Thank you, Chair.
Wel done. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi, Chris. Ga i ofyn i Nicola ddyn ni mewn i ymateb i adroddiad y tasg ag orchwil, os gwelwch yn dda. Diolch i chi.
Chair, should the lead member come in before the officer? I'm happy to respond.
The lead member didn't want to say till the end, so okay. I'm going to you now.
Diolch. Okay. So yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Christine Marsden, who has chaired the task and finish group, which quite rightly has been hasn't finished and has had an awful lot of areas of service to consider. So I would like to thank all members of the task and finish group for considering the information that has been put forward to them regarding MEIFOD, and also thank members of this committee. As you will know from your packs, there is a considerable amount of information but it's right and proper that as members you have the detail of the matters that have been considered, not only within the service but also by the task and finish group. So as you can see from the information in front of you, officers have been considering the future of MEIFOD. I think it's fair to say that for both people who access MEIFOD, but also the staff who work at MEIFOD, the local community, the families of the people who attend MEIFOD, and also to others who refer people to MEIFOD, it is a very welcomed and valued service. That being said, obviously, we do have to consider at all times the viability of our services and opportunities to modernise and to meet people's needs. So COVID unfortunately created a challenge for us in that we had to close the building, and not just MEIFOD, unfortunately, because of the restrictions that were placed upon all of us. There were things that we could not continue, we couldn't continue in a safe way. But now, as restrictions are being reduced, it's ideal opportunity and timing to actually look at the future of MEIFOD and how, as a service and as a council, we can continue to offer employment support opportunities and skill-based opportunities for the individuals that we support. So we undertook an engagement event over a period of weeks and considered the views of people who use the service currently, their families and carers, people who work in the service, and also other stakeholders as well. And as I said before, very clearly, the service is a valued service. That being said, there was also some response to that engagement that individuals actually didn't want to return to MEIFOD and would like to consider other opportunities and other different activities. So I do think we have to obviously consider the difference of opinion. So as you will see from all the information in front of you, officers put forward a number of options to the member task and finish group, and they were considered and scrutinised as you would expect them to be. And the member task and finish group have put forward a recommendation that MEIFOD should be reopened as a council-run service with reduced activities and new ways of working. And that work be commenced to secure an external organisation or social enterprise to provide a range of activities for people from the existing MEIFOD building, but that this may not be woodwork-based activities. But this is with a view to exploring the long-term sustainability of MEIFOD. So I would like to confirm to the committee that officers are completely in agreement and support the recommendation of the task and finish group, and obviously would be happy to take any questions from the committee. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr I chi, Nicola. Oes yna gwestiynau yn codi I Nicola fan hyn nawr? Pawb yn ddistaw?
Mi fydd gennau gwestiynau cadeirydd.
Na, neb o tu allan, ar hyn o bryd.
O, meddwl gyrru.
Swyn, mae'n ddrwg gen I. Peter Scott, os gwelwch yn dda.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say I agree totally with the task and finish group and MEIFOD opening again.
all the benches in Set have been produced by MEIFOD, and they're still here. They're very, very good condition. They're very well made, and I believe that MEIFOD is a great service for Denbighshire and should stay open for the people that work there and everyone else. That was just a comment on behalf of MEIFOD. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Peter. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Unrhyw un arall o'r grŵp eisiau gofyn cwestiynau?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Bob, diolch yn fawr, then Martin.
Good morning, all. I have a few concerns, and one is the lease. How long have we actually had the building?
Dyna chi gwestiwn da. Pwy wrth ateb hwnna? How long have we had the building? We don't.
I can come in if you like, maybe.
Please,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
We've got 4 years left to run on the lease of this building. MEIFOD itself, this will be 2021 is its 50th year. So it has been going for 50 years, but the lease that we have at the moment has 4 years to go.
So how long, sorry, my question was, how long have we actually had the lease?
Can I come in, Chair?
Yes, Nicola.
So the current lease, and as Councillor Feely indicated, we've been in the building for a long period of time, but the current lease that we are signed up to at this moment is a 10-year lease with 4 years remaining on that lease. So the lease is until the 30th of September 2025.
Right. We have to look after the building. Why has it got into such disrepair? Why have we let it get into the state?
Quiet.
I can come back on that, Chair. Sorry, I'm clicking on buttons and they're not working. Apologies. There has been, obviously, with any premises, ongoing maintenance is part of our responsibility of any building that we occupy. And the machinery at MEIFOD is unique, obviously, to the type of manufacturing business that it has. So there has been some very basic maintenance of the building whilst it was closed during the pandemic, as with all of our buildings that have not been occupied. However, because, apologies, the lights in my room have just gone out. Because of the machinery not being used, I think there has been some obvious issues in terms of deterioration. There would have been an opportunity for the machinery to have been continued to have been used and as such been serviced on that routine basis. I apologise, I'm not a technical person in terms of the correct words for the machinery. But with anything that's continued to be used, then obviously you see issues as and when they arrive and you address those. Because the machines have not been used for a significant period of time, I think when officers have gone to look, there have been issues. So that's been part of the element. But with anything of such a nature, there is an issue around replacement and replenishment of such machinery. So that would have been something we would have had to have considered, but it would have been something we would have done gradually, bit by bit, if the service had remained open and functional.
But Nicola, the question from Bob was how the building itself, how has it got to such a state? Not the machines, the building itself.
The building, the heating, all these other things. Why haven't these been maintained and kept up to date?
As I say, some of the maintenance has continued and has supported it, but it is an old building, and it is something just, you know, an age-wise that would have been had been an issue had we continued to have been occupying the building. But that ongoing maintenance, because the building wasn't occupied and was shut for a significant period of time, So the servicing had been carried out throughout the lockdown period. Please be assured we have continued to service the heating, but it does need upgrading. As with anything, you know, even my own home central heating, I have it serviced annually, but it will only last for a period of time, at which point I will have to get a new central heating boiler. So that is just the nature of some of the machinery within the building.
Thank you very much. I think Jenny wants to come in here. Thank you. Croeso, Jenny. Sydych chi?
No, it's all right. I think Nicholas said all that needed to be said there. As far as we're aware, the building has been serviced. When they came to service the heating, there was a recommendation around upgrading the heating to make it safer in terms of the airflow in and out.
Wel, ga I gynnig yma bod angen buddsoddiad ariannol mawr i'r adeilad. But angen I, os newch chi gytuno efo fi, Bob, that there's a need for...
I totally agree with you. Sorry, Chair.
I will come back to that at the end of this discussion, but angen buddsoddiad helaeth I mewn i'r adeilad ac periannau sydd ddod I fewn i'r adeilad hefyd. Diolch yn fawr. Over to you, Martin. Cynghorydd Martin, Holland. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask questions about the lease and the building, so Bob has covered that. Obviously, MAIFOD, I think we all agree, and I fully support the task and finish recommendation, that this is an important asset to the communities involved and the people involved, and it's important that they do have routine. You know, it's part of working life for them, and those routines are important. So I think we should do everything we can to deliver this service. The question marks really is how big a service, and also one of my points was going to be, you know, why are we leasing a building? Obviously there's a historic issue here, when we as a council also have buildings which are probably a little bit more modern and updated than the building that we're using at the moment. If we're losing numbers, you know, obviously some of the guys who work there are thinking of other opportunities if we continue to lose those, and I understand that, because the pressures of COVID, this particular workforce, or you know, individuals are vulnerable, and COVID has been a big issue for them, and I can understand the reluctance of some of them to come back into work in that sort of environment, especially if there are other opportunities. But I think therefore, if we are losing numbers, we do need to perhaps look at something very different, perhaps in a better building that was more easy to manage. Well, some of the running costs that you've listed here, so here's some of my questions. It says here electricity 3,500, I presume that's per annum, that cost. And is there any way we can do something different by, you know, solar panels on the roof or whatever to reduce some of our running costs? It always puzzles me, because I look at the cost of raw materials, and they have rocketed, as have most raw materials, to be fair, that are imported at the moment because of COVID. I always wonder why we can't produce some of these materials from the forests that we have here in Wales, that we can't find local suppliers, rather than importing, you know, the wood product from Sweden. So I just put that up. You mention in the report, one of the recommendations is to diversify. I just wonder whether you could give us some examples of what you mean by that, and how we would either accommodate that in this particular building, or provide something as an alternative for these employees. So let's have a look. And no, I think that's all I need to say at this stage. There was something else in the report. You did say we needed to signpost citizens to non-statutory community-based activities and services. I just wondered if you could also give me an example of what you mean by that, please.
Very good. Diane, well done, Martin.
Okay. Do you I'll pick up some of it and then I'll ask Jenny to come and answer some of it as well. So solar panels, something possibly to consider, although as we do not own the building, it wouldn't be something we would be able to do. We would need permission of the building owner. The costs obviously of fuel were based on costs that have been incurred to date. As we all know, over the last week or two, there has been some increases in costs of gas and electricity. So I'm not quite sure at the moment how we would account for those potential cost increases, but certainly different types of energy efficiency are something as a council with our declaration of the climate crisis is something that we do routinely look at, but as it's not our building, to a certain extent our hands are tied. Can I ask Jenny to talk about the different opportunities that are being considered? I think there's such a long list. I would miss something out and then disappoint somebody.
Yeah, I think they want to look at diversification in terms of less use of wood. I think at the moment the products are quite wood intensive, and I think they would like to look at diversifying the kind of the products that are made. But I think what's probably important is that whatever diversification happens, it's about looking at that with the people that go to MEIFOD and thinking about the activities that they would benefit from. So I think there are a range of kind of products and opportunities that can be explored, but I think it's about looking at what would be appropriate and suitable for those people that go to MEIFOD. But the eye being on using less wood. And in terms of,
I think it's fair to say, Jenny, isn't it, that we've got lots of ideas, but actually we need to work with our people who use that service to not only sort of share with them the ideas that we have, but also to listen to them and to consider the ideas that they have.
Yeah. And in terms of non-statutory services, I think what we're talking about there are work placements out in the community. So services that are not provided or arranged by Denbighshire. Because I think what we would like to see is more people in paid jobs or in volunteering opportunities out there in the community. But obviously we know that there are some people who are not going to be ready for that and who will need some sort of activity similar to one that MEIFOD provides.
Diolch yn fawr, Jenny, a diolch yn fawr, Nicola. Do you want to come back on that, Martin?
Just a quick comment. I must admit, the cost of energy is increasing by the day. Sadly, I've just had to fill my oil tank, and I've been watching the gauge for ages because I wanted to do it some time ago, but I couldn't. Filling my oil tank this week has gone up £200 more than I paid at the beginning of the year. And I watch various news programs, and the French news I often watch, and they reported that their energy costs had gone up in France by nearly 57% so far this year. So we're not the only ones who are facing these problems, but obviously from our side of the coin, it looks to me in many ways that the building that we have and that we are leasing is part of the problem, in the sense of the age of the building and the fact that it's not perhaps as energy friendly as it could be, and because it's not our building, it restricts as what we can do. So I wonder whether it may be an idea at some stage to look at that and see what the terms of the lease are, to see whether we can, cut our costs somehow, and by using one of our own buildings instead. It's probably a little bit more modern and up to date. So thanks very much for your comments. The important thing, and I agree with you, is that these youngsters, and they're not all youngsters, I hasten to add, but they are in employment, and that they feel they are being employed, and therefore, contributing to society and also putting money in their pockets, so that they can do the things that everybody else would expect to do. I think there's some work we need to do on this one.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Diolch yn fawr. Bob, do you want to come back? I noticed your hand
Yeah,
up.
I just want to come back on the diversity side. And I don't know if Nicola, if she said there's different things they're looking at, but one side I would be looking at is the NHS, because masks and things like that, we don't have a place really that makes these things around here. So would they be looking at helping the NHS in making things that they need, Nicola?
I think it's something to explore, Councillor Murray, absolutely. I think it's fair to say that we haven't taken anything off the table. These are things we would like to consider. We'd like to talk to the people who use MEIFOD in terms of what interests do they have. Some of that is clearly in making products, but for others, it is actually something entirely different altogether, a different range of activities. So yes, I think, there are opportunities, and that's why we would be really interested in working with other businesses, potentially social enterprises, in terms of, what opportunities are there out there to do something different.
I personally think it would give them a big boost if they knew they were helping the national health, Nicola. And I hope you do go that way and look at that type of thing. I think it's very, very important. I'm just going on to a few other things. Can I go on, Chair? Or
Yes.
I feel sorry for the people that have their parents of the people that go there. Respite is so valuable for the carers and families, and that we must put up at the top of the list. Respite, building repair, diversity. Yes, I'm sure there is other places, like Martin said, where we can buy wood from, our own forests and things. We must have a whole load of wood about, so that should be looked at. The questionnaire results were very high that came back. That was pleasing to see. The building, as Martin said, are we in the right building? Do we have other buildings in our own portfolio? We bought that many in Rill. Maybe there's somewhere there. Well, that's about it for the moment. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Nicola.
Diolch yn fawr, Bob. Because you've got a 4-year lease, we've got to use the place for 4 years, what I can gather.
I understand that, but we should look into the future.
If you go back to what you said in the beginning, it needs to be looked after and modernised. So that's another option, that we keep going, or even buy the place off the owner and make it far more modern and keep it in the centre of our county. That's my view.
For that, Chair.
Okay, right. I want to give Bobby a chance because I see her hand is up for a bit. Bobby?
Okay, I put my hand up to remind you I was coming in at the end, but if you want me to come in first, I'll do so. So just to recap a bit, as Nicola said in the beginning, there has been, as you can see by the report and the appendices, there has been a great deal of information to compile and a great deal of information for the Task and Finish group and other members to read and digest. So I feel I must thank Jenny Andrews and Katie New for all the work they've done pulling all this together, and Christine and the Task and Finish group for being the ones who've gone through all this. But just I thought it's worth just saying a little bit. I've said a bit already, but a little bit about MEIFOD, which was set up, as I said earlier, it was set up in 1971, which incidentally was the year I got married. And it's one of 4 Denbighshire County Council enterprises that provide real life working environments for people supported by the Learning Disability Service. The aim of MEIFOD is to provide a happy, friendly and rewarding place to work and to visit. MEIFOD's core business has always been the manufacture of high quality wooden outdoor furniture. The finished products are sold to both the general public and the trade and are known for their quality and their value. MEIFOD uses environmentally sound methods and resources its manufacturing process, which means that customers can be well assured that the lifespan of purchases is not in question. And I, like many of you, have been a purchaser of MEIFOD products over the years. During the course of this review, I've not spoken to anyone, not one person, who wants to close MEIFOD. So I want to underline that. Nobody wants to close MEIFOD. There's a huge difference between upgrading, modernising and bringing something into the 21st century. A huge difference between that and closure. And as Cabinet Lead Member responsible, I would not sanction closure. But I do agree that changes are needed to improve the offer at MEIFOD. Over the next 4 years, possibly for the remaining time of the lease, I would like us to work closely together with the people who work there to make a sustainable economic enterprise, even if that means bringing in changes and increasing some of the products that are made, whether that be, as Bob's just suggested, working with the NHS, or even, as I thought myself, we could even be working with Tony Ward's service, which with recycling and rejuvenating furniture. He's opening up a recycling shop, I think. That's his idea anyway. So in other words, if it's not suitable for one person, it might be suitable for another. That, you know, there's programs on television with this at the moment, and that might be something that we could look at. So I just want to say that, you know, I would like us to open it absolutely as soon as possible. I don't really want to even talk about reduced services. I want to talk more optimistically. I want to talk about doing more with MEIFOD. Anything that needs doing in terms of repair, which, as Nicola says, things may have gone down during the course of the pandemic. Things do, as many of you members have said. All that needs to be done will be done. And nobody will be going back there if there is any health and safety issues whatsoever. So I just am making points. I'm not asking questions. I want just everybody to be assured that this report is not suggesting closure. It is suggesting doing something maybe a little bit different and exploring possibly exploring the possibility of a social enterprise, the sort of things that, you know, we need to do in this day and age to keep going. So I hope that puts minds at rest in many respects.
Very positive comments there. Excellent. Well done, Bobby. I'm glad you said that. David Williams, ydych chi eisiau deud gair cyn bod fi'n mynd ar bobl tu allan? No. All right. Diolch yn fawr. I'm going to open it to people outside this committee. I'll start with Councillor Rhys-Thomas.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. I think the others had their hands up before me, but if you're happy for me...
I decide who speaks, you carry on.
Well, thank you, Chair, you're the boss. And we are the extras. Thank you for letting the extras have a word. I think Councillor Bob Murray is on fire today. He's asked quite a few of the questions that I was going to ask. One of the first things that was mentioned was the machinery in MEIFOD. And I'm sorry to go into all the detail, but the details actually are that the machinery has been there since 1990, so it's not exactly new. More machinery was moved there from other places in 96. But the interesting thing is that despite the fact that they were being inspected every year, At the time that the place closed because of COVID, there was only one machine that was deemed to be unfit to being used. And unfortunately, management at the time refused to invest in the repair of that machine. If we go from machinery to the heating, a new flue was required on the heater. And again, when that was inspected, it was found that there were traces, small traces of asbestos in the roof. Now, that's not an insurmountable problem these days. You get the specialist people in, but again, management refused to invest in putting that flue in order to keep the main part of the building warm. So following on from, I'm sure it was Bob who said this, there seems to have been a lack of investment in this building over the years, and coupled then with the fact that there have been several attempts before COVID to offload this building and this service to external groups, to social enterprises. Now that we know there are 4 years to run on the lease, and we've seen how much that annual cost is, do we really think that there's going to be a local charity or a social enterprise who's willing to pick up that bill that even Denbighshire is balking at? So I think what we're coming around to, if first of all you can confirm whether that information that I've given there is correct or not. The other thing that I'd like to ask is, how much of a stock of wood does MEIFOD already hold? I know that prices, as Councillor Martin Holland said, are increasing, but is it correct that there is quite a large supply of timber which would allow the woodwork to actually continue, because this large stock base that they've got? The third, I think it's a comment, but I can ask a little bit more about this recycling idea. I've got quite a few ideas, and I think maybe Jenny Andrews is the person I should talk to privately about this, but I'm not sure whether the families of the users want this to become merely a recycling centre. I'm much more familiar with CYTUNWYD in Carnarvon, and I think that the people, young and old, who use this centre, they value actually producing something and making something. So there are a few questions in there. Are my facts about the centre not having the necessary investment pre-COVID? First of all, is that correct, please? And I'll end there, and I can see lots of other hands up. So thank you, Chair. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Awn ni ymlaen at gwestiynau eraill rwan, ac mi wnawn ni geith Nicola a Jenny feddwl am yr atebion i'r cwestiynau yna. A at y cynghorydd Emrys Wyn rwan.
Ie, diolch Cadeirydd. Dwi'n ymwybodol iawn bod yna siaradwr arall i roi cyflwyniad, yn gobeithio gael ni roi yr un gwrandawiad i'r siaradwr pan fydd y cyfle dod i'w rhan. Gai yn sydyn ar mateb yr hyn dwi wedi glywed a'r hyn dwi wedi darllen hefyd. Mae'r Rhys wedi cyfeirio nifer o bethau ni'n bwriadu cyfeirio ato, a dwi'n diolchgar i hynny. Ond dwi wedi defnyddio MEIFOD yn y gorffennol, a hefyd cyn hynny dwi'n cofio defnyddio ADBORTH, ganolfan arddio fanno. A'r un beth sy'n gyffredin rhwng y ddau oedd y croeso ges i oddi wrth y gweithwyr oedd yno yn y ddau le, gwasanaeth cwsmer heb ei ail, ac wrth gwrs roeddwn ni yn gallu mynd â gadael y lle gyda archeb i mewn yn achos MEIFOD, planhigion yn llenwi'r bwt y car yn achos ADBORTH, ac yn gwybod bod yna ddychwelyd mewn rhyw dro. Yn anffodus, yn achos ADBORTH oedd ddim cyfle i ddychwelyd achos cael ei gau oedd yr canlyniad unrhyw arolwg i fanno yn ddiweddarach, a hynny fater o dristwch i mi ar y pryd pan yw'n sy'n gynghorydd gyntaf yn 2017. Dyna pam mae'n debyg bod yna bryder yn y cefndir, bod yr opsiwn 3 yna, rhywle yn llechu yn y gorau. Dwi'n rhaid o glywed heddiw nad oes na ddyn bwriad gan y sir i gau y meifod. Mae hynny'n hynod o bwysig ar ben y rhestr, a mae eisiau bod yn gadarnhaol efo hynny. Dwi'n hefyd wrth fy modd yn delio gyda coed ag ati, a mae'r wefr mae rhywun yn cael o gynhyrchu unrhyw beth allan o goed yn anhygoel i fi yn bersonol, a dwi'n gwybod bod o unigolion sy'n defnyddio fo yma hefyd. A dwi'n apelu os gwelwch yn dda, geith meifod barhau os gwelwch yn dda pan fydd yn cael ei gadw i ddefnyddio yr adnoddau sydd ganddyn nhw i barhau i gynhyrchu adnoddau sydd cael ei wneud allan o bren. Bren wedi i'w ail ddefnyddio gorau oll. Byddai fwy na pharod i gyfrannu tuag unrhyw stoc sydd ei angen efo hynny. Mae gen i ddigon o wmpas y tîm. Dwi'n ymddiheuro, dwi wedi cael ymhregell. Reit, yng nghwestiwn i ydy...
Mae'n meddwl bod ti'n ôl yn y pulpit yma, da iawn.
Ie, dyna fo.
Ymlaen nawr at cynghorydd Glen Swingler.
Mae gen i gwestiwn.
O, mae gen o gwestiwn.
Mae gen i gwestiwn. Mae yna awgrym wedi dweud bod y costau o fynd i feifod yn dod yn uwch na mynd i lefydd eraill. Be di'r rheswm am hynny? Pam bod... Ie, mae hwnna'n gwestiwn ar ei ben, sy'n ei dweud. Wrach fydd y gwestiwn eraill yn dod o ddiwedd eraill nes ymlaen, ond fi eisiau clywed y siaradwr nesaf hefyd. Sy'n dod yn ôl. Diolch yn fawr.
Gwen Swingler.
Chair, sorry, we've had quite a few questions and I don't want to not answer anybody's questions. Would you mind if we answer before we take any more?
Glenn didn't come in. Okay, we'll go back to the questions. One question or two from Emrys and the 2 or 3 from Councillor Rhys-Thomas. Okay.
Diolch, Chair. I don't want to upset anybody by not answering their questions. I'll just pick up that last one in terms of the increased costs. As we've already said, you know, costs of everything are increasing at the moment. So, you know, even if things were exactly as they were 2 years ago, the costs would, as it stands today, would have increased. We know from the engagement exercise with the individuals that previously used the service that some of them have decided they do not want to return. So therefore, that means less people will go back into the building when it's reopened, and therefore that does increase the cost of running the service. The economies of scale just won't be the same as costs are increasing, and you'll see in the paperwork the increased proportionate costs of wood. And absolutely we will look at alternatives and more local methods of supply and the supply chain. Can I ask Jenny if she can come in on the other questions? I'm not sure we'll be able to answer all of the technical questions, but where we can't, we'll certainly look to get answers and respond within a time frame, Chair.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the stock situation, to be honest, Councillor Thomas. I don't work at MEIFOD, but certainly we can try and find out what the stock situation is. And I'm not fully aware of those issues around machinery that you mentioned needed repairing but wasn't, or that wasn't approved. So we can find out a bit about the background to that. We are, if a decision is made to reopen MEIFOD, we can look now at funding from the Social Care Recovery Fund. Is that right, Nicola? Yep. So we can look to see if we can recoup some of those costs through that fund.
And I think it's fair to say that that option wasn't available to us when we were first looking at these options, and when we pulled the reports together. This is a pot of money that has come from Welsh Government, and we've only just had the criteria for what we can claim against that, and we feel we are able to put a claim against that, so that will be obviously a help. Deal.
And in terms of the activities, I don't think there's anything to suggest that recycling is a foregone conclusion at MEIFOD. I think what happens in MEIFOD going forward really needs to be determined by what would be best for those individuals that go there. And we know some of that from the findings from the survey and the work that was done by the advocacy service. So we know that producing things is really important to people, and that seeing those things out in the community is really important to people.
Jenny, diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. There's one question, Chair. So we're not looking to move this to an external group at this particular time. It doesn't seem to be a good time to do this. Can we confirm that, please, Chair?
Can you confirm that, please, Nicola?
I think the recommendation from the Task and Finish group and supported by officers is that we use the remaining time of the lease to work with the people who currently use the service to explore what interests they have, but also to look at the opportunities that may be available by working in partnership with others. And, you know, let's not forget that if other organisations run these kinds of opportunities, there are different funding streams that they can access that we as a local authority are unable to, just because we are a local authority. So, you know, there may be opportunities for other organisations to actually access monies to invest in a new service and a new opportunity that we just don't have the opportunity to access. So I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I'm saying we need to explore all of those options.
Ardderchog, diolch yn fawr iawn. Iawn, Rhys, ti'n iawn wan? Da iawn. Reit, ydy Emrys eisiau dod nôl? Emrys?
Os gwelwch yn dda, ia, oedd yng nghwestiwn i'n gofyn pam bod o'n costio mwy fynd i Meifod a llefydd eraill. Dwi'n meddwl, dwi wedi cael rheswm pam bod y costiau'n uwch. Dydy yma oherwydd effeithiau Brexit a Covid, mae'n debyg. Ond mae yna hefyd resymau eraill, dwi'n siŵr gwybod ydw i pam bod y costau yn wahanol i fynd i lefydd eraill ac ydy o i barhau defnyddio Meifod. Dwi'n mynd allu dall hynny.
Ond mae Meifod wedi cael ei argymell, mae'n cael ei agor gan y tas y gorchwil. Felly, os oes gynnwch chi gyfle i ateb y cwestiwn yna, Jenny neu Nicola?
Yeah. Nicola, are you happy for me to take that one? Yeah, there are lots of reasons. When we look at the cost of a service, there are lots of reasons why there's a variation between the different services. In Meifod's case, we've got quite a high rent level. We've got quite a high proportion of people who need one-to-one support. So some of it is related to the building and some of it is related to the nature of the needs and abilities of the people that go there. So it's difficult to compare like with like, because another service that may be cheaper may not be able to meet the needs of those individuals. So each of the services we use has a different cost attached to it, but each of them is providing a different type of activity. Meifod is relatively expensive, and a large part of that is due to the cost of the building and the heating and all those kind of on costs that are associated with that. Right. Does that help?
Gai ymateb, Cadeirydd? Heb cwestiwn.
Mae amser yn mynd rwan.
Reit, dwi'n felly'n synnu bod yna bris yn cael ei roi ar natur y gwasanaeth gwych mae Meifod yn cael ei gynnig enghraifft y darpariaeth 1-1. A pe ba'n nhw'n mynd i leoliad allanol, fyswn ni'n gobeithio bod yr un darpariaeth yn cael ei gynnig yno hefyd. Gwasanaeth ydi Meifod, a sgwelwch yn dda, gawn ni pidio brisio y gwasanaeth gwerthfawr hwnnw. Diolch yn fawr.
Da iawn. Glenn, please. Oh, allowed to come back to Glenn, it seems to me.
Yes, good morning, thank you. Just to firstly say I'm on the Task and Finish group, but I wasn't in that final meeting, unfortunately, due to a family health emergency. But do I agree with it, with what the Task and Finish group have said? When you're only given those limited options, it's the best option they were given. But if I could just go through, I've got lots of questions. So let's start with the front page. In the year in the 2 years prior to lockdown, the number of people attending MEIFOD had reduced from circa 31 to circa 24. Lower down, it says interviews with social workers in 2018 showed that they were more likely to signpost citizens to non-statutory community-based activities and projects. This has had an impact on all providers, internal and external. My question there is, why would they not signpost to MEIFOD would? Were they advised not to do so? And I'll come back to why that might have been the case afterwards. Immediately under that, it says demographic changes meant that young people with severe learning disabilities and complex health needs are now more likely to survive into adulthood. Not entirely sure what relevance that has to anything. If we could come back to that one. Appendix 2, the individual families, interested groups, you know, on those that were in the engagement survey. What did we do about potential future users of MEIFOD? Lower down on that same appendix, it says the council does not exist to supply benches. Selling benches is not a statutory function. I think that's extremely demeaning for those people that work there and have worked there and would be working there in the future. Let's go on to appendix 3, MEIFOD current issues. 6 out of the 24 of the people who had previously attended MEIFOD have started going to other places instead and don't want to return. That's because MEIFOD is still shut, and they're sending their you know, their relatives to places that are now open. You know, fewer new people wanting services even before the pandemic. The number of people starting in MEIFOD each year had been reducing. Did DCC stop offering MEIFOD wood? Or were they advising their people to stop? I'm going to come back to why that might have been the case. The lease, there was a self-repairing lease. The building's going to have to be returned to the into a proper state when it's returned, if it was being returned to the owners anyway. So that work's got to be carried out regardless. Where were we? Was that 3? Appendix 4. The options offered to the families, you know, where's the option to keep it as it is and improve it? If you're given an option between close now, close later, or close a little bit later, you're going to choose the best one, aren't you? There was no option there to say that they would like it to see that that service improved and expanded. Next one. This is our MEIFOD reference group 2021. Why is the group needed? A 2019 review of services proposed the externalisation of MEIFOD. This comes back to why social workers may not have been offering this. A Meet the Buyer event was held in March 2020. So this shows that council had an intention of getting rid, you know, if you read it as it is, the council had an intention of getting rid of MEIFOD wood back in March 2020. Could somebody explain now? I'm pleased to hear otherwise, that this is not an option that appears to be now, but what's changed since March 2020? This is a magnificent service. Incomes that have been mentioned, you know, we need to go back to April 2019 to determine the true income of MEIFOD wood, because it's my understanding, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that management was stopped. The management stopped MEIFOD wood from making any special orders from 2019 over health and safety issues. If somebody could confirm or deny that, please. Yeah, it is a shame that we've had this service for decades, and we're now thinking of changing it. Yeah, I'd hate MEIFOD wood to become another sort of drop-in for coffee and cake thing. This is, yeah, they provide top quality products. Our local schools are their customers, and you know, so they do have a customer base. And if somebody could answer those points for me, please.
Nicola, do you want me to make a start? And you feel free.
Okay, Jenny, you hit back. No, then.
I think the demographic statement is quite important, really, because basically we have fewer people needing statutory services. The reason for that is that I think it was 2014, a new act was introduced, the Social Services and Wellbeing Act, and Denbighshire started to take what we would call an assets-based approach, which is about looking at what assets an individual has, either themselves or within their community. So we have tended to signpost people to other activities and community-based services much more than we did previously. So all providers have seen fewer referrals since the introduction of that act, because people are not referred to statutory services as much as they were in the past. And we've seen the impact of that on external providers as well as internal. And I think, you know, on the whole, for some individuals, that's a good thing, because that means they're out and about in their local community. But at the same time, we know that there are people who will always need a statutory service. And that's why we still need some sort of work-based activity for people. But we don't need it in terms of the number of people that used to need it. So this isn't unique to MEIFOD, it's something that cuts across all statutory services. And it's a response to the Act and to that kind of assets-based approach. In terms of people surviving into adulthood, that's important, because what we do know is that the people who go to MEIFOD, who are referred, are tending to be those individuals who have more complex needs. So it's about making sure that we've got a service that can respond to those needs. Does that help in terms of answering those questions, Councillor Swingler?
I've got to be honest, not really. I'm
Okay.
still not quite sure where you're coming from with that.
Yeah,
you know, why you know, MEIFOD would exist. It's been in existence since 1971. We've been signposting people to this service for decades, and all of a sudden something's, you know, we seem to be finding a reason not to.
I don't think it's not a sudden change, and it's not unique to MEIFOD. It's across all statutory services. We've seen far less demand, and certainly when we look at the current kind of age range of people within all of our work opportunity services, we've got far fewer under the age of 25. We still have some, but we've got far fewer than we used to have. And as I say, I think that's a response to the Act and to our own approach in terms of encouraging and supporting people into other community-based activities, and in some cases into voluntary placements.
Okay, Glenn. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
there was a whole load of questions there, Chairman.
Yeah, go on, man.
Can you answer them all? I don't know.
I think we've got fewer people needing services. In terms of the fact that the council doesn't exist to produce wood, I think the point there is that the business is a byproduct in a sense. The MEIFOD exists to provide a service and work-based activities for people. I think, you know, it's finding that balance between running a business and running a service, and it's important to try and make sure that we always maintain this as a service. If it makes a profit, that's great, but if the main focus must be on providing some sort of factory-based activity for people.
No, nobody else wants to answer any of those questions from Councillor Swingler? Nope. Okay, there are a lot of other hands. Croeso I Paul Penlington, but I will have to keep to those who are outside the committee to begin with, and I'll start with Councillor Davis.
Sorry, Chairman.
Yeah.
Can I just ask what? Yeah, one of the key questions there was that a Meet the Buyer event was held in March 2020. What was that about, please?
I wasn't in post at the time, but my understanding is that was about seeking an external provider to continue with work-based activities from MEIFOD. I think following that, obviously we had the pandemic and nothing was done, so it's kind of follow on from that, is my understanding.
It was an exploratory exercise, but as you can see from the papers, there have been discussions ongoing for a number of years. Obviously, they stopped because of the pandemic, but there have been discussions going on for a number of years looking at work opportunity services and looking at the other aspects of work opportunity services as well. So it wasn't looking to get rid of it, I think was the term Councillor Swindler used. It was exploring options and looking at whether or not there were other partners, other stakeholders that would be interested in MEIFOD. But as Jenny said, because of COVID, that didn't progress. If a decision is taken at a later date to look at other alternatives and other options, then that's something that we would consider doing again in the future. Diolch.
Diolch. Iawn, Glenn?
Yeah, and again, another one is, have we considered keeping it as it is, improving and expanding the service, because that's not an option that was given to the service users or members of the public.
I think Councillor Bob Murray and I are going to suggest that at the end of this meeting. Glenn, don't worry. Okay. Okay, we move on to Mary Gloyd Davis rwan. Byr, os gwelwch yn dda. Byr.
Mae'n ddrwg gynnau, Mr Cadeirydd, a dwi'n diolch i chi narw am y cyfle, ond mae hwn yn adroddiad mawr o iawn, a mae'n efo bo wedi cwyno wrtha i hefyd ynglyn â beth sydd wedi digwydd. Felly dyna pam dwi'n gofyn am eich amynedd chi. Ac hefyd, y broblem wrth gwrs sydd wedi bod, mae yna ansicrwydd difrifol wedi bod ynglyn â dyfodol y gwaith yma. Felly mae hynny dwi'n siŵr wedi dod allan yn yr ymatebion. Mae yna un o ddau bethau. Gai ddiolch yn gyntaf i Christine Maston, y cynghorydd, ac i'r grŵp sydd wedi bod wrth ben hwn. Maen nhw wedi gweithio'n ddyfal. Yr unig beth dwi'n meddwl sy'n digwydd hefo y math yma o archwiliad, da ni ddim yn cael mynd i'r safle. Da ni wedi clywed bod y swyddogion hyd yn oed ddim wedi bod yna i weld cyflwr y peiriannau, cyflwr yr adeilad, i fedru adrodd yn ôl heddiw, sydd yn drist, dweud y gwir. Y tudalen 13 ydy'r cychwyn, a da chi yn edrych ar y pennawd, a mae'n deud MEIFOD Wood Products. O'n i wedi cymryd bod Sir Ddinbych yn ddwyieithog, a bod y Gymraeg yn cael blaenoriaeth. Lle mae'r enw Cymraeg? Os nawn ni edrych ar pethau eraill sydd wedi cael eu codi, Fy'r llawer o rieni a theulu yn rhoi pethau i'r adeilad yma, i'r gweithwyr, ac i wella pethau. Dwi'n cofio un teulu ni roi llestri i nhw gael paned ac yn y blaen. Ydych chi o bobl a meddwl o'r lle. Hefyd, wrth reswm ceir melinau coed lleol. Mae yna un yn ochr Llandrillo sydd yn cynhyrchu y coed allan o goed lleol. Hefyd, mae yna dipyn o hanes yn does i hyn. Yr adeilad a'i gyflwr, wel, dwi'n cofio chi, oedden ni'n henllan ystalwm yn dodden. Oedden nhw'n daclus ac yn gyfforddus yn henllan, ond, ddaru'r cyngor sir, ddewis gwerthu'r lle i dau gael eu codi yno. Fe roddwyd adroddiad cynhwysfawr gan y swyddogion, ddim yn deud y rhai sy'n yma rwan, yn deud mor dda falla symud, a bod gen nhw'n adeilad, addas ac yn y blaen. Ond wwan, da ni'n gweld bod yna gan gymeriadau wedi'w gwneud wrth gymryd y lle yma mewn llaw, ynglyn â cynnal a chadw ac yn y blaen. A ddrwg ei fod yn hir, Cadeirydd, ond mae o'n andros o adroddiad pwysig, a mae llawer o'r cynghorwyr wedi tynnu sylw at pethau. Tudalen 17, faint fydd yn ei gostio? A mae yna linell y fan yn deud, i gynnal MEIFOD o ddeutu 170 o filoedd y flwyddyn. Roedd costau gros, neu gros, o redeg y gwasanaeth yn uwch, ond os e ddim ffigwr yn cael ei roi. Wedyn ar tudalen, y 19. Dacre'r sefyllfa ydy'r les a'r rhent yr adeilad, ynde? pan ma'n ni'n neud ffasiwn gan gymeriad wrth gymryd y lle arno, da chi wedi sôn y peirianwaith ac yn y blaen. Wel, pan o'n i'n saer, oedden ni'n cael rhywbeth i lawr, fasach chi'n rhoi oel arno fo, fasach chi'n ei orchuddio fo hefo pethau i'w cadw nhw rhag rhydu ac yn y blaen. Ydy hwnnw wedi cael ei wneud? Ac hefyd, tra dwi'n cofio, diolch i'r gweithlu sydd wedi bod hefo'r y cyfeillion yma'n gweithio. Maen nhw'n wedi bod yn greu gwaith bendigedig. Diolch i'r gweithiwrs. Felly, da ni'n mynd ymlaen. Dwi'n trio mynd drwy mor sydyn y gellau. Tudalen 29, annex C, beth sydd wedi digwydd i'r Gymraeg yn yr holiadur, a chi ddim ond anfon holiadur Saesneg allan i bawb. Eto, sefyllfa sydd ddim bach, dwi wedi deud unwaith be ydi o. A wedyn, troi i tudalen 47, MEIFOD Wood Products Engagement Report. Os di hwn di mynd allan i'r cyhoedd atodiad 4, tydi o ddim yn Gymraeg. Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd.
Chi, gewn ni ateb y cwestiynau yna rwan, dwi'n meddwl, Jenny a Nicola, sgwlwch y dda, diolch.
I'll make a start and then I'm sure Jenny will respond. So officers have been to the building and have been to the building on a number of occasions, just not myself and Jenny. And I'd been either using an ornament because I, wouldn't know how to operate any of those machines. I can't answer where the name came from and why it's not Welsh. As Councillor Bobby Feely said earlier, MEIFOD started in 1971. So apologies, I have no idea where it originated from. We have already talked about local wood and local opportunities, and I think that's something we've said as officers we would continue to explore and look at. You've said about the building, some councillors are suggesting remaining in the building, some councillors are suggesting looking at alternative premises. So again, the proposal is to remain in the building whilst the current lease term is there and explore all those options during that time frame. So I think I've answered some. Jenny, were there any you needed to pick up?
Yeah, sorry, what else was outstanding there?
I think pob peth wedi cael ei ateb, dwi'n meddwl. Dwi'n Meirig ar y cyfan, oedd chi gwestiwn am cost y lle?
The engagement being in the medium of Welsh.
Sorry, yes. Yeah. As far as I'm aware, those letters were translated, the questionnaire was translated. They were sent out bilingually, but I believe there was at least one parent who didn't receive both copies of that. So I can only apologise for that, but certainly they were translated by the County Translation Service.
Meirig?
Sorry, you're on mute.
Ja, Meirig, gei di ddyn ôl? Na? Mae o'n ar mute rwan. You're on mute, my friend.
Good night, Mr Cadeirydd. Mae rwy'n mynd i dipyn o hwyl yn dydi efo pethau yma. Yn Saesneg, mae'r ddau adroddiad gyda i yn y Gymraeg, a dwi'n siarad o'r adroddiad Cymraeg heddiw.
Ia, reit. Oce. Wneud y bwynt, ti'n hapus rwan? Gan ni symud ymlaen?
Wel, dwi'n mynd i cael ateb i cwestiwn 6.1 ynglyn â roedd y costau gros o redeg o gwasanaeth, os e ddim costau i fy diwnodi.
Do you understand that, Jenny?
We can send information about the gross cost of providing the service. I know finance have done some forecasts and some kind of, because certainly the last year is not a reflection because obviously there's not been a service provided from there. So the finance team have done some work on the detail of the costings and to try and forecast the costings with the new rent level and some estimates around increased running costs.
Pam diolch yn yr adroddiad, Mr Cadeirydd?
Dwi'm yn gwybod, fel y gofyn I fi.
Wel nac e, dwi'n mynd drwy'r cadeirydd yn swyddogol.
Ie, o reit, mae di ateb y cwestiwn di, a mi gei di...
Wel, yn sal iawn.
Sal iawn, o reit, oce. Dwi'n symud ymlaen rwan I Jeanette Chamberlain-Jones. You've been very, very patient with us. Thank you, Jeanette.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased that most of my questions have already been asked by all the other members, and I'm grateful for that. What I wanted to say was on the reduction of people attending these facilities. And as you know, I've been around here a long time now, and I know about ARCHWILIO's closure and Avondeg and so on, and I've campaigned to stop it all along. But for those councillors who don't know this, the main reason for the decline in people attending such wonderful places, may I say, is that in the years ago, doctors referred people, i.e. elderly people, to drop-in centres for company and to take advantage of meeting other people, getting a good meal and so on. They were referred by their GPs. For people who were disabled, they were referred to such facilities by their GPs. This no longer happens. And so this is where the shortfall over many years has happened. And I have witnessed this since 2004. It's a decline, pushing people into external providers. But I'm very sorry to say, not all external providers do a really good job. And some of them fold quite quickly as well, leaving these vulnerable people without anywhere to go. And it's happened a lot as well with our pushing the problems of elderly people into remaining in their own homes longer, which is fine, staying in your own home longer. I'm one of the elderly people who stay in my home a lot longer because of COVID and because I'm now a widower. But it would be nice, and it was nice for people to be able to go to places like Avondeg and others where they could have a nice cup of tea and a nice meal and do some nice tasks, Christmas card making and the likes. And we remember Pwyllgor in the village and other tasks. We used to do rota visits and we witnessed wonderful work at ARCHWILIO, and yet we closed it. So there's just a little bit of history, Chair, and I thank you for letting me speak. But it's vital we keep these places open. And I do think as a council, we have let it decline, and that is left at Denbighshire's door. We've let it go that way, and we should have done more, as we should have done for all the other facilities. And let's not shut this. Let's invest in it, because it's investing in people who are vulnerable and need us. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Excellent, excellent. Hugh Hilditch Roberts, ti di aros yn hir iawn ar y teg I ti. Dyma ti.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Thank you. I've heard what the discussion has been very interesting, but I just want to make the point that we refer to these people as service users, but actually it's their way of life. It is so important that the effect that this service not being available at the moment has for these people. And there's one individual I know in my hometown, Ruthin, who was outgoing, engaging because he was going to MEIFOD and has not been able to do that. He's become a recluse and he's therefore not interacting in the public. He used to come down to the cricket club on a regular basis and really has knocked his confidence. So I just want to make that point that we're talking about lives, not service users, are really important. And I think there's a couple of things. We can go around the houses and discuss the building, the lease, and we need to invest, we need to do this, A, B, C. For me, it's simple. One action is, do we agree as a council this provision is key to these individuals? It's a simple yes or no for me, and it's a definite yes for me. The second thing is how we provide that provision for them. Now, if that is in this building or in the future somewhere else, wherever it may be, I think a piece of work really needs to be done around that to make sure that we're not patching something that may fall down in, you know, after the lease has expired, or we get into a bigger lease, pay more money. We just need to get the offer right. And I think there needs to be a piece of work done about what that offer in the future looks like, not just patching up what the offer is now and maybe incurring costs, and it may not be fit for purpose in 4 or 5 years. So for me, I would just, rather than just do a piece of work around what we've got, which is really important, we need to do a future-proofing work to make sure it's sustainable. And I think the argument with wood products have gone up, etc. Well, so it has in every other business in the world. So the market is totally different. You know, I put an oak floor in 12 months ago, and when I went to do a little bit more, it more than doubled in price. So it is going to happen, and the market will reflect that. But the fundamental thing for me is in this, and the question that I want to ask the officers is, when is this service open for service users now? Because they've been too long. And what I need to say is that, you know, having a walk around the streets or around the woods is fine, and it's engaging for them when they can't go to the provision. But what happens when it rains 3 days on the bounce and they can't go out? You know, that is a really big challenge. And for me, those are the questions that I'd like officers to answer now, to let me know what's going to happen now, and when will these individuals be able to get back to some kind of normality, please?
Diolch yn fawr. Cwestiwn I chi, Nicola, and I know Nicola wants to leave quite, and she's a very busy lady.
Okay.
So I haven't got much time. I hope the questions are concise and to the point as soon as possible, please.
No, I absolutely agree with what's just been said, and obviously so does the task and finish group, because the recommendation is for that work to be done to actually explore all of those options, not just patch up what we've currently got, which I think was what was just said. In terms of the when do we intend to open it? Well, I think depending on any recommendation that scrutiny decides to make today, Cabinet will be considering the report from the lead member and from officers on the 23rd of November. So I think, you know, we will be looking for that kind of opening time frame. There are lots of factors. We will need to sort out the staffing, the building will need to be prepared, and obviously work with the individuals in terms of getting them ready to come back into the building. So as I say, I think it's something as officers we're recommending that the building be reopened. We will have to do that safely. As it stands at this moment in time, Wales is on alert level 0. That could change though. So, you know, I can't make definitive responses to that question. But the intention, I think, from officers is to open the service back with support from Cabinet. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr. Gweithio fe hynna'n ateb I chi, Hugh. Dwi'n mynd at bobl eraill rwan. Dwi yn brysio chi, mae'n ddrwg gen I. To the point, please. And Councillor Paul Penlington, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's difficult to know what to say because so many people have said so much, and I agree with much of it. I am quite concerned that this whole report seems to be geared towards scaling down, closing down, cutting back, finding alternative provision, and it's largely based on the cost, financial cost. The cost to the people involved would be immense. I spoke to a mother of a daughter who uses this facility. She said this is generally the only chance her daughter will ever have, really, of having anything like an apprenticeship in the genuine workplace. That is incalculably, you cannot calculate what that's worth to people and families. The fact that there are not enough service users using it has been commented on. I work with people with disabilities. I could fill this place 10 times over. What work is done to find people who might want to access it, who don't know it's there? Why is it not promoted to people who might want to access it for their personal value and their family's value? The report, I find, is geared towards cutting back, like I say. Why is there not an option for keeping MEIFOD now, expanding MEIFOD, investing in MEIFOD for the future, for our residents. Our residents are people with disabilities as much as anybody else, and we should spend our money on them as much as anybody else. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, diolch yn fawr. Fi'n cytuno cant y cant fe chi wedi dweud. Mae genna I berson sy'n eisiau siarad fel rhiant nes ymlaen, felly mae dipyn o waith gennym ni fynd eto. Dwi'n mynd at David Williams rwan, ysgwylch chi dda.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, gobeithio ydych chi'n clywed fi. I'm going to be very brief for you all because I know it's been a long meeting, but it would be remiss of me not to add my own concerns as expressed by so many others as to the importance of my concerns as to MEIFOD being less becoming a less important feature of the county, because it is a massively important institution for so many people, and I know there are people in my ward of Dizeth that use the facility. So it's basically to give my backing as briefly as possible to all those who have expressed concerns. Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Bob? Councillor Bob Murray.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask Nicola, where do most of our referrals come from at the moment?
So the referrals come from an assessment, and that assessment is conducted by the Complex Learning Disability team. That is a multidisciplinary team, including health and social care practitioners. So it is following an assessment, and obviously during that assessment, the conversation, what matters with the individual, is part of that process.
And why are we getting less then? Do you know? Can you put your finger on it, Nicola?
Well, as has already been said, the demographics have changed slightly, but actually when exploring with individuals what matters to them, there is very, varied responses to that. And, whilst it's important that services are viable, it wouldn't be right for us to fill a service just to make a service viable. So, this has to be led by need and by demand, and not by us needing to fill something. And so people have voted. Some people have voted with their feet and have decided it's not for them, and they would like other opportunities. There are other people who very clearly say they want to remain at MEIFOD and want to continue to do what they have always done at MEIFOD. And that's absolutely right as well, which is why I bring you back to the recommendation, councillors. The recommendation is to reopen MEIFOD as a council-run service, and explore the future use of the building and the long-term sustainability of MEIFOD. Officers support that recommendation. Diolch.
Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr. Dwi'n mynd at Bobby Philid, ond a'i ddoi nôl atach chi, cynghorydd Bobby, achos dwi am gyflwyno i chi rwan un o rieni sydd hefo'i mab yn defnyddio gwasanaeth sydd yn MEIFOD, a geith hi gyfle I siarad, ac mae hyn yn hynod o bwysig iddi hi a werth gwrando arni. Pob lwc I chi, Brenda. Mrs Brenda Jones.
Diolch yn fawr I chi Arwel, diolch yn fawr am y gwahoddiad. Right, I'm here today because of my son, Dewi. He's 25 years old. He's been going to MEIFOD since he was 18. To Dewi, MEIFOD is quite simply his idea of heaven on earth. He's there for the woodwork. He's there also for the wonderful community. He's there for things like deliveries, everything. MEIFOD as it is perfection to him. I'm also here to represent my own family. We all contribute to the engagement exercise, as what affects Dewi affects us all. And I'm also here on behalf of all the families who have confided in me for quite a while now. Last spring onwards, especially, many people were worried. Other places were opening, MEIFOD wasn't. So I started asking officially. I wasn't the only one by any means. To cut a long story short, the matter was brought to the attention of the Cabinet, and then we had the engagement exercise. So everything now we assumed would be fair and above board. Everybody will have their say. So I stepped back a bit and let the county sort things out. August the 3rd, these questionnaires and so on were supposed to be going out to everybody. I'd heard nothing for the first week, so I emailed and I was sent a copy to be filled online or on the phone, according to the instructions. I said, no, thank you. I'd like a written copy so I can see the whole thing. This arrived. There were apologies for the omissions, and it was all because of people who were on holiday. That's why I hadn't been sent it, apparently. Other people still hadn't heard, though. I emailed relevant officers. They're here today, and they know that I did, and this was done. And I was assured that it would be sorted. It wasn't. One family had to phone. They were sent 3 copies a fortnight late. 2 friends of mine were actually contacted 3.5 weeks later. Anyway, the content, we can't stay for that forever. One of the first things that struck me was this phrase when I opened the thing. Some people have decided not to go back to MEIFOD. I read that out to Councillor Bobby Feely. Her words were, "You're joking." She did try to have the comments removed, but by then it was too late. This is putting ideas into people's heads. How could the council possibly have known by then that people didn't want to go back anyway? Other thing, there was an error in the Welsh version. Question 6 and 9, somebody had forgotten to include, if you answered yes to question 6, Sally, coming back to MEIFOD, then go to question 9. So because that wasn't in the Welsh version, people doing the Welsh version had to think of reasons why they didn't want to go back to MEIFOD after they just said that they wanted to go there. Very, very careless. After the questions, we were presented by with a list of disadvantages, all the reasons why MEIFOD was a problem. People have gone into those. So we get to the 3 options. Option 1, that was the only hope. We'd had all this negativity. Option 1 was the only thing. What would you have done? I ticked it with provision, with other things as well. Other people chose to cross it out to replace it with reopen MEIFOD as it was. This is the 4th option. This is the 4th option we should have been offered or suggested. And why not a 5th? Open MEIFOD, but open it out, invest in it, make it into a viable business. Anyway, the report itself came along. It didn't disappoint. It'll cost more as there are fewer people there. Well, I can tell you personally now, if you offered 2 to 3 extra days to my son to go to MEIFOD, your figures might look a little bit healthier. Refer more people to MEIFOD. You say that more people are going out into the community. Have you any idea how few places there are in the community? Have you any idea how few places that are warm, welcoming, that you feel a sense of worth, that you produce something that is actually sold? Like my son, for instance, he was responsible for quite a few of the planters in Prestatyn Station. That's his sense of worth. And that is by making things with the wood, work for which they've been trained. They want to carry on with it. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit lost. Oh yeah, do marketing with local schools. Has this been done? Find out who your future clients could be. Look for out-of-county placements, which would immediately contribute funding. This used to happen. People used to come from out of county. Appendix 3, reading what MEIFOD staff had to say. One example, the county hasn't invested in any machinery in the last 30, then there was a blank. I assume that's months. No, I don't. I assume that's years. Then please, everybody, read what the advocacy service has said. Read the comments these people have written. I don't like farming. I don't like gardening, sorry. I don't like gardening, it was. I want to do woodwork. The comments the advocacy service wrote at the end, this engagement process has not provided an adequate opportunity for most of the MEIFOD attendees to participate, partly due to the tight time frame, partly to the closure and it being well established already. See, by then, lots of people, as has been said already, lots of people have found alternate placements, but not my son, sorry. He's still going for a walk and sometimes popping into places, but they're out, they're in the open air. What's the weather going to be like? Anyway, I found this a little bit telling, noting the importance of different things. If you look at Appendix 2, the advocacy surveys are presented as the voice of people with learning disabilities locally, but they're given medium importance. Not high, medium importance, Appendix 2. I'd also like to draw attention to the counter-arguments we as a group sent to members of the committee. People have gone to the trouble to respond to this consultation. Most have gone for option 1 for obvious reasons, just to have the place open. But now we learn that even this wish might not be respected. 3.4, work to be commenced to secure an external organisation or social enterprise to provide a range of activities for people from the existing MEIFOD building. This may not be woodwork-based activities. Please, Mr. Chair, MEIFOD is more than a building. MEIFOD is skills. MEIFOD is skills that they've earned over the years. And it's rewarding. It shouldn't be changed. I believe that the whole process of the engagement exercise has been handled quite shamefully from the outset. The questions were geared in a way to get responses. Negativity was presented, then you were asked to choose. Saying people have chosen to leave, that's not what social services told me. That's not what the families told me. People did not choose to leave. They left because MEIFOD wasn't there. They would come back. I'm convinced that they would come back. Speak to Nathan from Cynnig, for instance. He knows they'd come back. He knows them. He knows them better than any of us. Anyway, I'm sorry, I did get a bit worked up there, but anyway, as I said at the beginning, I'm here for Dewi. I'm here for all the families that have spoken to me, including my own, of course. And I'm also here for the people who have worked for MEIFOD, who have worked in MEIFOD, staff and service users, some of whom cannot even contribute to this because it would be too difficult for them. They haven't got supporting families, for instance. And I'm afraid I'm becoming very, very cynical, but I can't believe that the people who've produced this engagement exercise have the best interest of these people at heart. Diolch yn fawr Arwel. Gobeithio bod i'n mynd yn
Da ni'n teimlo drostoch chi, arbennig o dda, teimladwy iawn. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi, arbennig, mae pawb yn clapio chi, arbennig, diolch yn fawr iawn. Dwi'n mynd I ofyn
Yes, well done.
Gofyn cwestiynau iddi hi. Da ni yn gytun bod ni eisiau amddiffyn MEIFOD a'i wella fo, buddsoddi, investment. Mae eisiau gwella y sefyllfa, mae eisiau cryfhau yr opsiwn y mae task and finish wedi cyflwyno I ni. Mae eisiau mwy o arian I gael ei dosglwyddo I mewn i'r gwasanaeth hwn yn MEIFOD Dinbych. Mae o'n effeithio ar lawer o bobl, da chi wedi sôn am bobl yn dyserth, rhai sôn am bobl sydd wedi dod yna o'r Rhuddlan hefyd. Felly dwi'n gadael I Bobby Philly ddeud gair, a wedyn dwi'n mynd I gael Glenn a Paul I siarad eto, mae'n drwg gen I. Felly dwi'n gofyn I Bobby Philly ddeud gair, a ddau'n mynd at Bob wedyn I gyflwyno y cynnig a ddau'n eilio. Bobby, ysgwelwch yn dda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I won't be saying too much. As you know, I'm the lead member that's responsible for this area of service, and I have had a very clear message today. And what is heartening about the message is that this is represented by all members. This is all the groups are represented in who have put forward put forward their messages today. So this is not one party, this is all parties and all groups across the council with the clear message that we want to keep MEIFOD open. And as we can see by the enthusiastic questions and the contributions of the members here today and the various ideas for it and how it could expand and improve. And whatever is said about the report or the inadequacies of the engagement exercise, the Task and Finish group agreed to keep MEIFOD open, and that's their recommendation to you today. Yes, it will be exploring opportunities over the next 4 years, and I agree with Glenn to an extent, not with all he said, but with some that he said, that he would like to see it move forward with expansion and modernisation and see it improve. So that's the message I've taken on board today, and I hope that whatever has gone before, we can now move forward and look ahead to the optimistic future for MEIFOD. And that doesn't mean we won't be exploring possibilities of how to improve it and make it more sustainable, but at least we can underline that we're keeping it open. And what's more, when we do launch it back with people coming back to use it and work there, I hope we can have a bit of a big launch, because it is their 50th anniversary, and I think we should make a play of that and go forward 50 years on to the next 50 years, perhaps. maybe not as far as that, but you know, I feel optimistic, and thank you all for your contributions. Thank you for your chairing, Arwel. You did well to get everybody's points of view on board, and also Brenda as a representative of all the people the service people who use MEIFOD. So thanks to everybody, and for the officers, obviously, for doing a great job in trying to answer all your questions. It was very difficult without the head of service being able to be here, or Katie, who was the other part author of the report. So well done, Jenny and Nicola, for holding your own there. You did a grand job. Okay, bye.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr, Bobby. Bob, would you please put your recommendation in? The recommendation from the Task and Finish group, we all agree that we could pass that, but you want to improve it further, don't you?
Yes, Chair. I'm asking members to accept the recommendation in full and the reopening of MEIFOD ASP. And before you do that, could I just thank that lady that spoke before? I felt for her, and I'm glad we gave her the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Well, can I improve that without asking for more investment within the service in MEIFOD? More investment needs to be placed in MEIFOD, and I hope the cabinet members, there are 2 here, possibly 3, are listening, that we need this to be passed and more investment, and open it as soon as possible. That is the recommendation from Bob Murray and myself. Those who are members of the committee, will you put your hands up? Oh, before I do, Rhian wants a word.
I think we just, so we can send this to Cabinet, I think we need to be clear on the wording of recommendations. So if we take them one by one, first of all, yeah?
Right, you carry on.
That members consider the issues facing MEIFOD, which you've done, and you're happy with that, aren't you? That members consider the feedback from those stakeholders who have taken part in the engagement exercise in advance of a report being presented to Cabinet. I think you're clear on that one as well. That members consider the advantages, disadvantages and risks associated with the potential options within the context of 3.1 and 3.2, and the report their views to Cabinet, which will be done. And this is the one we need to strengthen, I think. That members especially consider the following out of the Task and Finish group. Agreed that having considered the issues facing MEIFOD and the challenges around the engagement with stakeholders, along with the feedback received from those stakeholders who were taking part in the engagement exercise, as well as the advantages associated with the potential forward, that the group commends the Performance Scrutiny Committee that it recommends to Cabinet that MEIFOD should be reopened as a council-run service as soon as possible. Now, this is the bit with reduced activities and new ways of working. Do you still want that to be in?
I think there's new ways of working is very important for the people who use the facility, and we should look at all options within the building itself, not only woodworking, but all.
So, I know I'm not a member of the committee, so are you removing reduced services?
Yes, I think so.
Chair, can I come in?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, Paul.
I was going to say, exploring new ways of working is quite concerning, because those of us who've been on the council for a while know that exploring new ways of working can quite often end up with something completely different from what you started with. Okay. I think we need to emphasise the fact that we want MEIFOD to stay as it is and develop, not be changed to something completely different. We need to keep it. That needs to be set in stone. We want it to stay. We want it developed. So new ways of working will be to promote and advance MEIFOD, not to move away from it.
And developed.
Yes.
Right, okay, so MEIFOD should be reopened as a council-run service as soon as possible, and new ways of working explored with more investment in MEIFOD, and work be commenced to secure an external organisation social enterprise to provide a range of activities for people from existing MEIFOD building. Now, it's got in brackets there, this may not be woodwork-based activities, with a view to exploring the long-term sustainability of MEIFOD, as per option 2, set out in Appendix 7 to the report.
We're quite willing for other skills to be developed there also, I'm surely, but what we need is someone to grasp the problem and improve it immensely and develop it further. And also, as Mary Gloyd Davis has said, that we remember that the Welsh language is very, very important for this facility also. But yr iaith Gymraeg yn cael ei ddatblygu oddi fewn i'r gwasanaeth hefyd yn MEIFOD. Ewch hwnna i mewn hefyd. Diolch yn fawr. Ydych chi'n iawn? Di pawb yn cytun? Everyone is happy that we can vote. Those who are members, I'm voting for the proposed. And Peter, Bob is voting. I'm sure Paul is voting also. All of us are in favour. Martin? I can't see him. Yeah. Okay, all in favour. Dan ni gyd wedi pasio. Thank you all for those who take part. And now I ask Graham to say a few words, please, before we move on to other matters. Diolch Nicola. Diolch Jenny.
Diolch, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to come in now. I thought there was a good debate. So from the Chief Exec's perspective, I've listened to everything that's been said. Obviously, we've got to go and take a report now to Cabinet. I think that's going to be, as Nicola said, for the 23rd of November. Rhian will help me here. Rhian, would it be, is it normal protocol that the chair of scrutiny would attend that Cabinet and help present some of that kind of recommendation from scrutiny to Cabinet? Is that what normally happens, Rhian? Just for clarity.
Yes, it is. The report is already listed for presentation, so it's not going to be under the items of recommendations from scrutiny as such. It's going to be a standalone item on MEIFOD. So yes, the chair of performance would be expected to be there, and I think the chair of the task and finish group as well, just for continuation, and so that you can see the whole process through. But yes.
Okay, no, Rhian, thank you. So just wanted to clarify that. So at Cabinet on the 23rd, Chair and Councillor Christine Marston will be representing you as scrutiny in terms of putting forward that recommendation, that debate. So I think that's good. The other thing I just want to, I thought it was a very good debate, and it was excellent to see. I don't know Brenda's, I think it's Brenda, is it? I don't know Brenda's surname, the member of the public whose son attends. So well done for attending, and thank you for your input, very much appreciated. Well done, Nicola. Thank you, Nicola, for stepping in, as Bobby has said. I'm just repeating something Bobby said, but of course, Nicola's had to step in with Phil having to not be available today. Thanks to all the staff. Thanks to the task and finish group. Well done. I think it was a good piece of work that you presented to scrutiny, all scrutiny members for what was a very good debate and very clear message. all of those that have contributed today, and obviously we'll now work with Bobby as lead member to make sure we get a report through to Cabinet in time. So diolch yn fawr, thank you, Chair.
Diolch I chi, diolch yn fawr iawn. Nice to hear your voice again. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Reit, da ni bawb wedi gorffen y gai. Mae Martin eisiau gair I mewn. Mae amser yn mynd, Martin. Is it to do with this item?
Just very quick question. We've talked about it open as soon as possible. Can I just emphasise that point? Because obviously, if we're going to wait till end of November, if there's a chance of us opening sooner, opening sooner, remembering COVID, it's important we do. Okay, thank you.
Good point. Diolch yn fawr. Felly gai ddiolch yn fawr iawn I Mrs Brenda Jones am ei gwaith heddiw yn dod I siarad dim yn hawdd. A diolch I bawb sy'n rhan o'r pwyllgor yma, a hefyd bobl o tu allan sydd wedi rhoi cyfraniadau pwysig iawn at y drafodaeth. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi, a gai ddiolch yn arbennig I Jenny ac I Nicola hefyd. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi. Reit, ni'n mynd ymlaen i'r eitem nesaf. Diolch i'r Rhian hefyd am helpu ar y diwedd yma. Diolch yn fawr. Da ni'n mynd ymlaen ymlaen I Scrutiny Work Programme. Gwaith y Pwyllgor Craffu yn y dyfodol.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Dyma rhaglen waith arferol chi. Fel ydych chi'n gwybod, mi oedd y cyfarfod yma I fod I gymryd lle ar y 10 o Fedi. Efo caniatâd y cadeirydd mwyn gallu ymdrin â meifod, mi gath o'i newid I heddiw. A dwi'n meddwl bod o'n dda bod nhw wedi cael just un eitem ar yr agenda heddiw, mae wedi rhoi cyfle da I bawb gael trafodaeth dda arno fo. O ran yr rhaglen gwaith chi ar gyfer y dyfodol, mae'r rhaglen ei hun ar dudalen 85 o'r papur yn fanna. Mae'ch cyfarfod nesaf chi ar y 5 ar 20 o fis Tachwedd, a mae yna 4 eitem I lawr ar gyfer y cyfarfod yno. Mae yn dangos ar hwnna y Custom Relationship Manager System i'w gadarnhau. Mae wedi gadarnhau bellach am I fydd yr adroddiad yna ar gael. Wedyn, cyfarfod wedyn, sgynnoch chi di'r 7 ar 20 o fis Ionawr flwyddyn nesaf, a mae yna 4 eitem ar hwnna ar hyn o bryd hefyd. Un neu ddwy yn eitha sylweddol. A mae 2 o'r heina wedi dod o gyfarfod dwytha'r grŵp cadeiryddion ac is-gadeiryddion. Yr un yn ymwneud ag absenoldeb a throsiant staff a'i effaith ar wasanaethau I gwsmeriaid, a hefyd ar cynnydd a chynlluniau ar gyfer y dyfodol o ran lleihau y defnydd o blastig intro a lleihau carbon o fewn y gwasanaeth prydau ysgolion. So mae chi eitemau sylweddol iawn ar yr agenda yna hefyd. Grŵp cadeiryddion ac is-gadeiryddion mae wedi cyfarfod nesaf nhw hefyd ar y 5 ar 20 o Dachwedd. Felly, os oes gennych chi eitem, ydych chi'n meddwl y dylen ni fod yn edrych arni, os gwelwch yn dda, nech chi lenwi'r ffurflen neu mewn yn atodiad 2 a'i hanfon I atai, ac mi na I wedi'n gyflwyno fo iddyn nhw ar y 5 ar 20 o mis Tachwedd. Atodiad 3, mae'r rhaglen waith eitem y faned, dwi'n meddwl y dylech chi gael golwg arni cabinet, ac yn atodiad 4, mae'r diweddara ar eich argymhellion o'r cyfarfod dwytha. Diwedd wrsos dwytha nes I anfon ato chi diweddariad gwybodaeth oedd yn cynnwys adroddiad chwarter 2, dwi'n meddwl oedd yn un adroddiadau chwarterol y cynllun corfforaethol. Mae'r adroddiad nesaf i'w gyflwyno I chi yn mis Tachwedd ar gyfer trafodaeth. Felly, os wnewch chi ddarllen hwnna, mi ddyle fod o help I chi erbyn y cyfarfod nesaf. Hefyd, yn y diweddariad gwybodaeth, neu roedd yr adroddiad nes I sôn amdano'n gynt ar cefndy, yn dilyn cyfarfod rhwng cadeirydd a'r is-gadeirydd a Phil Gilroy'r pennaeth. Felly, os unrhyw eitem yn hwnna, ydych chi'n meddwl, ydych chi eisiau ddod o'ch blaen chi rhyw dron y dyfodol, plis gadewch I ni wybod. Dwi'n meddwl dyna fo.
Eglurhad a lot o waith cartre I ni gynghorwyr o fanna. Diolch yn fawr I chi Rhian. Ac felly, does na ddim adroddiadau gen ni, beth yna cynrychiolwyr o wahanol bwyllgorau eraill, feedback from committee representatives. Ys gen I ddim yr adroddiad. Ys rhywun arall? Beth am Peter, ydych chi fel arfer eisiau deud gair? No? All right. Anyone here?
No, we had community meeting, but I can't remember what was on. My iPad's just failed on me. I'm very sorry, Chair, but no, nothing else to report. Sorry.
I hope your wife is getting better, Peter, by the way. We haven't mentioned it.
Yes, she's a lot better than she was. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, and everybody else that's wished her good wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. Graham, do you want to say something? Because it's your first meeting as Chief Executive here.
Well, I've come to you from communities scrutiny because we're corporate director, my CET, the corporate executive team, we all look after one of the scrutinies. So as corporate director, I was looking after communities, but it's always been the China tradition that the chief exec would look after and attend performance scrutiny. So delighted to have been here, Chair. I thought the discussion on MAIFOD, and as Rian says, lucky you didn't have lots of other items on the agenda because you might not have got through them. So it does show the value of really good, intense scrutiny on something that's really important because you all get a chance to get your message over. And I think that's clearly what happened in that debate on MAIFOD. And so we've got the message loud and clear, the views of scrutiny. And as I said, we'll take those to Cabinet. But nothing further to add, Chair. Look forward to attending more performance scrutiny meetings. Diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Graham? Since Phil Gilroy is about to leave and retire, what's the situation replacing him in the future? Very important.
Good question. We'll need to give, I think in fairness, we'll need to give an update to all members on that. He says, in good chief exec fashion, he dodges the question and doesn't give a straight answer, is what you're going to tell me. In the short, so I will give you a very quick headline. I mean, in the short term, Phil's due to leave at the end of the calendar year. So in the short term, there'll be we'll have to put some temporary arrangements in place, but we simply won't be replacing him in time through a recruitment. So there'll be some internal arrangements that we'll have to do internally. I'll explain that to all members on another occasion, if that's all right. And one reason that we haven't been able to or haven't progressed appointment of Phil is that we're looking at the SLT structure. So I don't want to spend a long time kind of delving into the restructure, but the fact is we haven't filled my former post. The corporate director post is unfilled. Phil's leaving, so that's a vacant post. And Alan Smith has also announced his retirement, if you didn't know that. So that's another vacant post. So I think it's incumbent upon me and the senior management team to have a look at our structure and to see if there's an opportunity created there. So hopefully that's a very short, brief answer, Chair. It's a good question. So the bottom line is Phil will be replaced on a temporary basis while we look at an SLT restructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Diolch yn fawr iawn. There we are. Mae'r cyfarfod wedi gorffen. Diolch i Rhodri wrth yn ochr i fama, ac i Rian, ac ysgwrs i'r cyfeithydd Marian am ei gwaith heddiw. Dwi'n mynd am goffi rwle rwan yn Rhuthun yma, achos mae'n oer yna, dwi eisiau gael fy nghesu fyny. And os ydy Emrys Wyn eisiau sgwrs efo fi, byddai o gwmpas Rhuthun yn cael paned rwle. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi. Ta ta.